X-rated.
Bum bum bum.
That's 9 in a row now. Wait, what's your name again?
Dickory P. Weenus.
I didn't know we were having a guest on this time, but it's nice to meet you, Dickory. I'm Ryan Whedon.
This is my wife, Vagina MacGyver.
So nice to meet you, Vagina. Dickory. Pleasure having you here. Do you mind if I start things off with a super loaded question?
Sure.
What the fuck is wrong with our government?
Which part of the Edge of Chaos are you referring to?
All of it! It's just a mess.
It's just a regular Bridget Jones's Diary in here.
The level of embarrassment I feel being an American right now, I just didn't know I could go that far.
I mean, I was already embarrassed when he was running for president, like even just as a Republican candidate. And then like it got real bad when he was the nominee, and now that he's president, I'm like, like at what point do we take like our degradation seriously? Even if he doesn't do like any long-standing damage, like how do we like just like look at him and not feel shame? I always feel like this is how like white supremacists and racists felt about Obama, which makes me even sadder.
Oh god. Yeah, maybe.
Like they must have looked at him and been like, this is so embarrassing, but like it wasn't. Like Obama was like diplomatic and presidential and like knew how laws worked and you know basic things that we require from really any elected official.
Yeah.
And we decided to do a full 180 on that.
Now we have none of those things.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think about. Which leads me to my second question. Isn't Greek food fucking delicious? I cannot get enough falafels, feta, Kalamata olives, cucumbers, and tomato. Just like throw that all together in a
gyros. Just get it just all over.
I just want to eat Greek food to a bursting point.
I do love feta cheese, probably disproportionately from other cheeses. And I don't know what they do with their like lamb and beef over there, but it is working for me.
What if we just move this podcast to Greece?
What if we just settle for the pool in my backyard?
Okay.
And get a
ton of Greek food.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lovely like antipasta plate.
Yeah, let's be honest. The thing I want is the food there. I don't really need the environment.
We'll just get some like cheese and olives and like little toasted bread with some like olive oil and like sit by the pool.
Great.
That's like a Greek Isle right there.
Perfect. I can use my imagination.
You want to get some Greek food later?
Kind of.
I'm going to start a Greek takeout restaurant called Greek on the Go. And people just call it Greeko.
There was a Greek fast food restaurant when I was in Tacoma called It's Greek to Me.
Oh, okay.
And they had a drive-thru and everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I can't imagine eating like a gyro or something while driving.
It seems pretty messy.
I mean, I guess I eat burritos, you know. I used to eat like, you know, taco time.
Would you eat tacos while you're driving though? Because I feel like
hard shell tacos.
Yeah. Where were our legislators on that? Can outlaw cell phones, but hard shell tacos, that's still fair game.
I'd like to see the big government Democrat proposing that law. The anti-taco law.
Oh, we need like a hard shell taco car accident Gabby Haynes, basically. But the way our government's working, nothing's going to happen anyway.
I don't know, I can see Trump outlawing tacos.
Yeah, but taco bowls at the Trump Tower.
Oh, yeah.
They're the best. Believe me.
As long as
they're the best.
Tweet about it while driving.
God. Anything you watched recently? Do you like that hard? Just cut that off.
Yeah. Smooth transition. It's not what we're about over here.
What if we just start putting hashtag smooth transition on all our Twitter posts? Maybe then people will just believe it because it's like, well, it says it on the...
Yeah. People clearly just believe what they read. I watched something arty over the weekend.
Oh, yeah?
The Clouds of Sils Maria. It's from the director of Demon Lover, Olivier Assayas. I have no idea how to pronounce his name. He's French.
Okay.
And it had Juliette Binoche in it.
Ah.
And Kristen Stewart and Chloe Grace Moretz.
Okay.
I don't know.
Kristen Stewart, so it must be a newer one.
Yeah, it's fairly new. It's a couple years old. Juliette Binoche is an aging actress.
Okay.
And she is being asked to not reprise a role, but star in a revival play. The subject matter of the play is starting to mirror her real life. Like she's running lines with Kristen Stewart, and it's starting to like infer that like Kristen Stewart is leading her along. And yeah, it kind of like it brings into a lot of like celebrity internet gossip, and yeah, just a bunch of stuff like that. And it was pretty good. It was pretty good. I'd recommend it. It was a heady film.
Okay.
So
nothing wrong with heady.
Yeah. Heady and Greek, just all together.
Or Helen Reddy.
She's 41 and her daddy still calls her baby.
Yeah, great songstress.
She's a woman.
Hear her roar.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Did you watch anything?
No, I'm really trying to like play for time here. So, I mean, I guess I started watching The Keepers, which is a Netflix true crime documentary.
Okay.
About a nun who was killed.
Oh!
Yeah.
I heard about this someplace. Is it any good?
Yeah. It's heavy. It's just so dark. I mean, fuck. Organized religion is...
The worst?
The worst.
Not to get political here, but...
Whatever. We've already started it. But, like... Man, that really fucks with people. Especially if you're, like, raised from an organized religion as, like, this is how the world is.
Yeah.
Like, that can really skew you. Especially a religion like Catholicism, which is what this is, takes place, where it's, like, all based on shame.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, you can do some real damage to somebody if you just continually shame them.
Yeah.
And say that, like, this is God's will. I don't want to give too much about it away, but it's fucked.
It's the basis of all my relationships.
Just keep shaming them, keep them low and timid.
Shame or guilt. Yeah, one of those two.
Well, the two go hand in hand on this documentary.
But if you're Catholic, you just go to confession. All's forgiven.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how bad.
Yeah, I guess you're right. That's what Madonna learned, anyway.
I thought she was, like, into, like, Kabbalah or something.
Yeah, that was later.
Oh.
But when she was a kid, that she learned that pretty early on. It's like, oh, I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Oh.
And then I just go to confession, and it's, like, all forgiven. And it's like, woo, I'm free to do it again. So...
Confessions on a dance floor.
Exactly.
Which was well into her Jewish phase.
Pick a religion, Madonna. Come on. Or don't. Because they all are terrible. Hashtag yes, all religions. There, I said it. I got a question for you.
Okay.
How's up?
Way. I don't remember what the exact response was, but something along those lines.
Yeah, that's about right. I'm, of course, referencing obtusely the movie that we watched this week, which was It's Such a Beautiful Day by Don Hertzfeldt, who is one of my favorite living artists.
So, before watching this, I was really only familiar with Rejected.
Okay.
And the only part of that I really had a clear memory of was my anus is bleeding.
My anus is bleeding!
I think a lot of people feel the same.
Which I think I saw 7 or 8 years ago now, close to it at least. And I didn't really think much of it. Like, I thought it was cute and funny. Mm-hmm. But then I don't think I heard the name Don Hertzfeldt again for, like, 5 or 6 years. I mean, it was probably when World of Tomorrow came out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was 2 years ago now.
2 years, okay.
Yeah.
So I think I hadn't really heard much of him until that came out.
Oh, okay.
And even then, I didn't see any Don Hertzfeldt again until yesterday.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so it had been a while.
My story is kind of similar. I started with Rejected 2. I watched it, thought it was hilarious, would watch it over and over and over again. And then he was always kind of on my radar, and then somebody got, he did something with, what's the guy, King of the Hill?
Oh, Mike Judge.
Mike Judge, yeah. They did like a touring animation, I don't know, festival, basically. And somebody I knew got a disc of one of those, and we watched it, and actually one of the videos was a Don Hertzfeldt one, and it was actually the first part of this feature length. And so I made the connection that it was, oh, this is the same guy as the Rejected dude.
Yeah.
And so he's always kind of been there, and I've been peripherally paying attention to him. I'm just glad he's around making art right now.
So, I feel like this is the most Ryan pick so far.
Really?
Of all the movies we've done. Everything about it just kind of like, sort of like American Astronaut, how like when I saw this, like, I was only like halfway in the movie, I'm like, I have to tell Ryan about this movie. With this, I'm like, because it has like a deep emotional aspect to it, and it has sort of a level of ambiguity. Like, it's not like it tells like a very clean story, like point A to point B. Like, it's more just like someone like kind of traveling through their emotions.
Yeah.
Like, in the world.
Yeah.
Not too many like events in like...
It's not super plotty.
And then it's also just sort of like funny and like randomly quirky and just sort of funny in a sort of disjointed sort of way.
Yeah, it's certainly offbeat humor.
Yeah, which is, I feel, the type of humor that you like.
Indeed, yeah, it speaks to my soul.
And so, yeah, there's just a number of... Yeah, just like everything I'm like, this is very Ryan.
You're right, this is the kind of art I thrive on. Yeah. I feel like this... I was worried going into it, thinking like, oh shit, is this too much like Guy Madden? And
I made that connection.
Maybe. I mean, you could make the argument that they're very similar artists working in very similar ways. And doing things like in-camera effects and things like that. But I feel like he's got his own voice. I don't feel like they're speaking necessarily the same thing. So
when I started watching this last night or yesterday afternoon, I was definitely thinking like, oh, like the sort of frantic like pace of ideas is very much like Guy Madden.
Yeah.
And sort of like the sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Like carefree nature of the ideas, where they're not like big heavy ideas. They're just sort of like lucid non sequitur ideas.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this definitely like has like a Guy Madden touch to it. But especially for It's Such a Beautiful Day, like start to finish, it really has almost a Terrence Malick quality to it.
Oh,
with,
okay.
Like, its meditations on like life and death and like the human experience and especially like with the music that he plays with, like It's Such a Beautiful Day had Smetana's Ma Vlast in it, which was all over Tree of Life.
Right.
And I mean Hertzfeldt like almost exclusively uses classical music.
And I saw in an interview that he does that mostly because he doesn't like working with composers, but also because it's like licensing. It's free.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so they're dead, long dead, you know, and it works, you know?
Yeah.
Which is kind of brushes up on a topic we're going to get to here in a little bit. But, well, first of all, I guess, did you like this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, very much so, yes.
Okay, good. And you haven't seen it before
I'd never seen it before yesterday.
Oh, good. Well, yeah, this is definitely a Ryan favorite. I love just the ingenuity, the imagination, and it's a singular voice, and that he's creating art, you know, like this is what film should be, you know.
Yeah, and it's crazy because his films are super minimal. Like there is nothing.
These are stick figures we're watching.
Yeah, basically, like they might have like 2 lines for the body instead of just one.
Right.
That's it. Like there's nothing in frame that isn't absolutely necessary. Like he keeps it real simple. But at the same time, I don't know, it works. Like there's just like scenes where it's like he looks sad and it's just like a very simple sad face, but it works.
Yeah, he works a lot with, well, so I read a thing today where he basically, the reason he does animation is because he was a film student and couldn't afford the film, the actual, like, you know, film to make stuff. So he just realized, like, oh, I can do this with animation and it's a lot cheaper. And I can still get my ideas across, even though I'm not, like, you know, a great animator or anything, which I would argue maybe he is. But it's just like animation was the way it worked for him and he can get his ideas across, so he's just kind of stuck with it ever since.
Yeah, because he's really, like, anti-advertisement. He's
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't want to do anything except just, like, make the art and put it out there.
Yeah.
And I guess he's, like, self-sustaining. Like, he lives off the money from, like, DVD sales and touring and things like that.
Never had a paying job.
Yeah.
It's always been this, which is...
Yeah. I feel like Don Hertzfeldt is, like, the internet's own artist. Like, he makes art. I mean, It's Such a Beautiful Day is like the longest, you know.
Right.
I mean, even then, it's like 3 short films put together.
Right.
But like Rejected, like that's begging to go viral. Like that is like what you make if you want people to like for like word of mouth on the internet.
Totally.
It's just
Oscar nominated for Best Original Short.
Rejected?
Yeah.
Was Oscar nominated?
That's what kind of put him up there. You know, like all his stuff previous to that was all like festival darling kind of fodder, and then this got put out because he was getting commercial offers at that point, and he's like, what would happen if I just gave them the worst ideas for commercials and just see what happens? And then he kind of like ran with that idea.
You're watching the Family Learning Channel, and now angry ticks fire out of my nipples.
But yeah, it was nominated for an Oscar.
Wow.
Yeah.
My anus is bleeding.
I know! And then the next time, he was actually nominated again for World of Tomorrow.
I can definitely understand that. World of Tomorrow, the very end, when the little girl is put back, like time travels forward.
Yeah.
And they miss. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, is this how it ends? It was like in Toy Story 3 when they're about to like go in the fire. I'm like, is this how this movie ends?
Yeah.
And that's what I thought with World of Tomorrow. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, he's not afraid to kill off characters.
No.
I almost wanted to do this, It's Such a Beautiful Day, and World of Tomorrow together, but I felt like I was being greedy. And also they're kind of like, we could probably do a whole podcast just on World of Tomorrow, maybe. But,
talk for 45 minutes about a 17-minute movie.
I could. I got lots of thoughts. But what's interesting is that he's still doing, like, the characters in World of Tomorrow are still those stick figure characters that he's been drawing.
Yeah.
Like, they go throughout his work.
Yeah. With World of Tomorrow, that was his first digital film, I guess.
Yeah.
But he really wanted to do something that didn't... He wanted to do something different than what he'd previously done without looking like what other people are doing. Mm-hmm. Which I would say he succeeded.
Agreed. Yeah, it's a great one.
With It's Such a Beautiful Day, I like it because I feel like it kind of... It tackles, but it does a really good job illustrating how sort of weird our minds can be.
Yeah.
Like when we're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Like there's just a short little segment where someone's trying to sell him magazines.
Bill looked at the list of magazines for sale and angrily wondered why they didn't offer any Asian porn. Then he wondered why he wondered that.
And I'm like, oh yeah, that is sort of like how my mind works. Like, I'll have a weird thought that's like totally inappropriate and be like, that was a weird thought
Wait
to have.
a minute, Green. What are you doing? He plays with that a little bit. So basically, the premise of this movie is it's 3 short films. Everything will be okay. I'm so proud of you, and it's such a beautiful day. That he kind of stitched together into a full narrative. Mm-hmm. And it's about a guy named Bill. We're following Bill around. And Bill has some sort of mental / physical thing going on in his brain. He basically loses his mind as the film progresses.
Yeah, it's like whatever illness he has, like, affects like his mental state as well as his physical state.
Right. And he... the falling apart of his reality gets illustrated really well through the animation that's going on, I feel. It's sort of like with Clean Shaven, which is a great illustration, visual illustration and audio illustration of schizophrenia. This is like, at first I thought it was schizophrenia. It's more of just like a general dementia, memory loss thing that's going on with him, because we find out later in the third act that he keeps... when he brings the groceries home, and he's like, why is there so many groceries here? Or like when he first walks in, he's like...
A neighbor must have put these groceries in his apartment for him, which was a very nice gesture.
And then you realize that, oh no, he's bringing his own groceries in and forgetting them on the counter, but thinking that a neighbor did it.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's sort of an illustration more of dementia, I would say, than like a split from reality.
Yeah, because there's a scene where it's like he gets real sick and he has to go to the hospital, and they talk about how once he recovers, his mother had to return the coffin at great personal expense.
Right, yeah, because they thought he was going to die.
They took all the flowers out of his room because they thought he was going to die, but now that he's better. But yeah, I mean, it is sort of strange and it is sort of funny, like his movies, and especially this one. But at the same time, he's really sort of trying to illustrate a truth. Like, he's really going for like the human condition of like what it's like to be sick and what it's like to face your own mortality and what it's like when your mind starts to go.
Yeah, and he really walks this line of like, this is kind of funny, but it's also super sad. Like, if you actually have ever met someone who has dementia, like an older person, I know you've been through something recently, where it's like they'll say things and it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Where it's like, no, Grandpa, it's this actually.
Yeah.
But like, you're kind of like stifling back laughter, but it's so sad because that means their mind is going.
Yeah.
You know?
Like when I asked my grandfather, he'd been put into like a center because like his dementia was so bad that no one could care for him, like no one without training.
Yeah.
And I asked him, at Christmas, I was like, oh, yeah, you liking it there? Like, you settling in? And he goes, well, I'm not really there that much, so... I'm like, well, no, you've been living there several months now.
Actually, you live here. You're here 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
But
like, I kind of laughed, but it was also like, oh.
Yeah, and that's throughout this whole movie. I feel like that's kind of like the line he walks. Like, for instance, when the first kind of hint that we get that he's starting to lose it in a way is when he's sitting down, Bill, our character, is sitting down to watch TV with a box of crackers, and he ends up watching a Mexican boxing match. And at one point during that, one of them headbutts the other.
In the 4th round, there was an accidental headbutt that split open one of the fighters' heads pretty badly. They showed it over and over again in slow motion. Before he knew it, Bill had eaten the entire box of crackers. He felt really lousy and didn't want to get up. He had a sudden urge to talk to somebody, so Bill phoned his ex-girlfriend and told her about the manatee on his calendar. Did you ever see the movie about the giant manatee that attacked a city? She asked. I think you mean giant mantis, said Bill. Oh yeah, she said. Giant mantis.
Yeah, there's like multiple things like going on. Like you see like a bubble in the corner that shows the wrestling match, but there's also like different bubbles showing like different parts of the story that's happening at the same time.
And you get this cacophony after a while, and it's like you can't pay attention to all of it at once. And it's funny because it's like it's funny to hear things on a loop, I guess. I don't know, sometimes. But it's also really sad because then you're starting to realize that, oh, he's struggling.
Yeah.
You see it again too. I mean, like the same thing happens when he's having the dream and there's the fish with the pipe for a penis that's like,
the pipe is leaking. The pipe is leaking! Bill could read the thoughts of his waitress, who wore too much eye makeup and had no self-esteem. Outside, horribly deformed birds checked their voicemail.
I am made nervous by a clone that grows beneath my closet.
Not as complicated as that.
I am sexually inadequate.
Why do you keep treating me this way?
The effects of tranquilizers on animals at higher altitudes are unpredictable.
Why don't you come over here and sit on my lap?
He's really good. He approaches his films as films. Like he looks at them with an audio angle and a visual angle. You know, like I think that's something that is kind of runs through all of his work, is that he's really good with sound. You know.
Yeah.
Did you watch the short The Meaning of Life?
Yes.
That was another great example of good sound.
And that one also like reinforced my Terrence Malick.
Sure,
it's like,
sure.
Oh, this is like that dinosaur segment from Tree of Life, or the like short documentary that he did that I can't remember the name of now, but it's like about the history of the universe.
Yeah.
And it's the same sort of situation where it's like Terrence Malick just like showed stuff from like space and like primordial Earth set to classical music, and it's like Don Hertzfeldt just drew these same things.
Yeah. But he's also got an element of, like, funny to it.
Yeah, like...
Where Terrence Malick is very serious. I
Yeah.
feel like he's like, oh, I'm making capital A art here.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I feel like, while I do believe Don Hertzfeldt is making capital A art, he's not approaching it in the same...
Yeah, he's taking it seriously, but he's not taking himself seriously. Like, he's taking the project seriously, but it's not like he feels that, like, he's doing important work.
Yeah, or he at least acknowledges the absurdity of the human condition.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I don't feel like Terrence Malick is quite there yet. I would love to see a comedy from him.
One of his favorite movies is Zoolander.
Really?
Yeah, he has screenings of it at his home.
Well, I really want to talk about the moment at the big boohoo moment at the end of Act 1 when he has an episode, and so his mom has to come and take care of him for a little while, and while she's there, she like goes to cut a loose string off of him, and with some scissors, and he turns around, Bill sees her, turns around, bats the scissors out of her hand, and they fall to the ground, and she just says,
"How could you think I'd ever want to hurt you," she said, and crumpled to the floor. In that moment, Bill thought she looked really old.
It's just heartbreaking, that line to me. Like, the idea that her son is so far gone mentally that he thinks that this person who's been so nurturing forever would be trying to stab him with scissors, become that paranoid, you know? Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, we learn later in Act 2, basically, that she's not all there herself. That's, like, he talks a little bit about genetics and how, like, you know, mental problems can get passed down. Yeah. And how she kind of has her own little, like, OCD issues going on.
Genetics is pretty messed up.
But it's still sad to think, you know, that her very own son would be so split from reality that he thinks that she's trying to hurt him.
Now, has Don Hertzfeldt, do we know of any, like, sort of mental breakdown in his personal life?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
He seems like just a normal dude. Every interview I've seen.
Yeah, I watched a couple of interviews, and it doesn't seem like he's... Like, it doesn't seem like he's too, like, up his own ass about his art. Yeah. Like, he just seems like, yeah, I just like to do this. This is, like, what I, you know, do for a living. And he never over-intellectualizes anything. And then at the same time, like, he doesn't, like, assign meaning to it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
He just says it's like, this is an idea I had in my craw and I had to get it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he never seems to draw, or it never seems like he's drawing from life experience. It's not like in any of the clips that I saw of him personally where he talked about, oh yeah, like, you know, right after college I had a bad breakup and it really like shook me up. Like, he never says anything like that. Like,
right.
He had any sort of like trouble mentally at any point or physically. Like, like I haven't heard him talk about like, oh yeah, I was diagnosed with cancer at 22 or something.
Right.
Yeah, it just seems like this is from, like, his observations.
He did say that dream sequence that Bill has with the seal.
Last night, Bill dreamt he was young again in a field with friends at the seaside. A big, happy seal barked at them and bounded from the water to play soccer. He was pretty good. It was like an animal movie. Then the seal hit the ball a little too excited and it flew over everyone's heads and struck a little boy in an adjacent field really hard in the chest. It seemed like maybe he had a heart condition or something because he wasn't moving. Everyone sort of froze. The seal retreated to the sea. Nobody knew what to do.
He said he really dreamed that.
Okay.
Also, I think he said the part with the rocket ship and the ice cream sandwiches.
He dreams he's part of a rocket crew re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. As they rapidly descend, it's believed that eating ice cream bars will help prevent them from having strokes. As the heat intensifies, Bill eats his ice cream bar and secretly hopes that if something bad had to happen, the ship wouldn't explode, but just that everyone else would have strokes.
He said that was also a dream he had.
I also like the idea of eating ice cream sandwiches to keep you from burning up on re-entry.
Yeah. Well, if they're cold enough, maybe.
Because, they wouldn't melt. And if they were that cold, they wouldn't just freeze you to death.
Yeah.
They did make me want to eat ice cream sandwiches, though. When I was watching it, I'm like, God, they're having a love affair with this ice cream sandwiches.
Yeah, him and his ex-girlfriend, who's a great role in this. She's just super supportive. I don't know. That's kind of sweet that she plays a role.
Is that the one, like, they went to the park and the line is...
Mostly they talked about death.
I like that line.
Yeah. I like that, after that, he comes up with the idea of having his head shot into space.
Oh, yeah.
In a rocket ship, preferably looking out a window, and then she says, I'd be creeped out knowing your head's just spinning around the Earth looking down on me. Which is a good retort, I would say.
Yeah. I tried thinking of your head in a box floating above.
Mm-hmm. How'd it make you feel?
I was okay with it.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
So,
what if I had a judging face? Like, really, Matt?
Well, like, are you right outside my window?
I'm just in a container in the corner of your apartment.
I'd turn your face to the corner.
And then the next day you come out and it's turned back around. It's so dense the way
it
his
really is.
It's
really just packed in like a falafel,
just full of flavors and nourishing ingredients.
Lamb meat.
I love the part when he's like dreaming about. He doesn't like how people's crotches are so close to the fruit in the produce section.
Yeah, which I'd never thought about before, but we'll never eat a peach raw again.
I just like when he's like later dreaming and he goes like...
Everyone in the supermarket looked like some sort of demon. And they all had gigantic bacteria-ridden crotches buried in all the goddamn produce.
It's the goddamn that makes it art.
Yeah,
that's what sells it.
He repeats something similar to that in Act 3 with like, because the medication that he's on and everything makes his left side of his body like fucked up for some reason.
Yeah.
And he like, first time he grabs a mug and then it falls and he's like...
That hand is dropping everything.
And then he shows it again like a minute later and then this time it's like...
What in the hell is wrong with this mug?
I guess if your memory isn't working quite right, you would maybe jump to different conclusions if the same thing kept happening.
Because the Bill goes through chemo because he loses all of his hair.
Or something.
Well, I mean, I thought it was chemo because like the implication was like he started undergoing this treatment and then he lost all of his hair.
I just assumed it was because of pills he was taking for some reason.
Oh, okay.
But sure.
But yeah, I wondered like maybe chemo has that effect too. Like it's not just a physical effect. Maybe it's like a mental effect.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, if you're pumping a bunch of chemicals into your body, that goes through your brain too.
Yeah.
Blood goes into your brain. So,
yeah.
I thought it was an interesting point he made because there was a point in the end when he mentioned something about how like when your brain has memory loss, it tries to fill in the gaps basically with, I think the word he used was confabulated stories.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because then it sort of maybe shines light on a lot of the stuff that happens earlier on. Like, when we start to see issues with Bill, things like there's just, like, stated matter-of-factly, like...
The guy next to him at the bus stop had the head of a cow, but Bill pretended not to notice.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe he's just sort of filling in gaps with, like, dreams, even, which is why a lot of the weird shit he's seeing would make sense, kind of. It's just like, I don't know why that would happen, but I know this experience happened, so I'm just going to fill in the gap there that way, as your brain will.
Did you see his Simpsons?
Yes. Yeah.
Longest ever opening intro,
and that's previous to World of Tomorrow, but it has a lot of the. You could tell that's sort of where he's sketching slash workbooking it a little bit.
Yeah,
workbooking. Whatever.
And, you know, I gotta give credit to The Simpsons for, like, letting him, like, be Hertzfeldt.
They're like, here's carte blanche.
Yeah.
And, like, reluctantly handing it over.
I mean, they must have known, because of his reputation, like, against, like, advertising, that he wasn't one that was gonna, like, compromise his artistic vision.
Yeah.
So they must have just said, like, you can do whatever you want, just, like, keep it under 5 minutes. He's like, okay, here's 2 minutes.
Nudity. And it's great.
Yeah, it's real good. I like it a lot.
It's hilarious. And I read something today that he was actually there's an emotional element to it where the Homer character is actually looking back.
Still love you, Homer. We are happy families. All animals can scream.
So it's like almost even a comment on how, like, The Simpsons is sold out.
Yeah. It feels like Don Hertzfeldt is sort of the next step in animation. Like, with The Simpsons, we had a cartoon that was sort of, like, kids could watch it, but it was really more aimed at adults, or, like, young adults, or, you know. And it was really, like, the first, like, mainstream cartoon aimed at, you know, more than just kids.
Right.
That it was primarily aimed at adults.
Kind of validating the art form.
Yeah, but really, for the most part, all cartoons aimed at adults are comedies, and it's not that Hertzfeldt doesn't have comedy in it, but, like, with It's Such a Beautiful Day, it's definitely him doing more serious subject matter.
Definitely,
like, we're dealing with, like, death and dementia, you know, mortality, interpersonal relationships, and while there are elements of comedy to it, I feel like he's taking that next step. Like, we had comedy first, like Simpsons, and, like, really 30 years of animation after that, and, like, we're finally kind of getting to that point where we're having cartoons that are dramas, that are, you know, serious, like, more serious than they are funny.
Yeah.
Because there's not that many cartoons. Like, you can say maybe some, like, Miyazaki films are that way.
Sure.
But even that's, like, more action-adventure than drama, per se.
Yeah.
Like, this is cartoons that are dealing explicitly, like, with, like, interpersonal relationships and, like, your own emotions.
Yeah.
And there's not too many cartoons that do that.
Yeah, and it's hard because it's, like you mentioned earlier, I feel like when I talk to people about Don Hertzfeldt, a lot of people, or just reject it in general, if I talk to people about that, everyone's like, oh yeah, the Bloody Anus cartoon.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's part of it, but then it goes on and then turns into this whole different thing where it becomes meta and, like, the you know, drawings can't sustain themselves and it all falls apart, and there's amazing animation going on there.
Yeah.
And it's funny that, like, I think people have this association in their brain with, like, cartoons can't deal with heavy material.
I mean, I can't think of something other than one of these Hertzfeldt movies that really does.
Yeah, I'd be hard-pressed to as well.
You know, maybe Grave of the Fireflies.
Oh, I don't know what that is. What's that?
It's a Studio Ghibli movie, not directed by Miyazaki, but it's about, it takes place, like, World War II Japan, and like two kids, like teenager, maybe 17, 18, and like his younger brother essentially starved to death while like waiting out the war.
God. That's the thing, is like he's dealing with all these heavy emotions, but it's like there's enough humor and laughter peppered within that it's fun to watch these. You know, like you may cry, but you're also gonna laugh.
Yeah.
Several points I laugh in this movie, and I think he's really good at kind of dark comedy in that way, because it's like, I think when dark comedy is really good, you question why you're laughing.
Okay.
You're sort of like, yes, I find this funny, but then you have to say, like, why do I find this funny? Because it's so dark.
Yeah.
And I think he's really good at that.
Yeah.
And making me question why I'm laughing at these things he's presenting to me, you know?
And with the Ghibli film, it's a fine movie, but I wouldn't say that it's a great cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I feel Hertzfeldt, they are cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
You could not make these things live action and still have them maintain the impact.
It's like the argument with King of the Hill, where there's people like, why is this an animated series? You could easily do this live.
Yeah. Like, it's not a fault on, like, the writing or the jokes or the voice acting or anything like that, but it's just, there's nothing about it that's cartoony. One of my favorite of his short films that I think that if it was live action might be terrifying was the one where the balloons are attacking the children. I feel like if you did that live action, it would just kind of be mean. Yeah,
especially since The Red Balloon is such an important short film for me as a child. Like,
but watching it as like a cartoon, like that, and that's dark humor. Like, I'm laughing as like a balloon is like picking up this like limp body of a child and then dropping it. And even just watching it like smack the child in the face.
Yeah.
Like, if that was live action, like, I feel like it would just be mean.
Yeah.
But watching it as a cartoon, like, I can kind of laugh and cringe at the same time.
Yeah. I almost feel, so this earlier student films, there's one, did you watch A l'Amour?
Maybe.
It's his very first one, and it's a little embarrassing in that it's like one dude who walks up to a girl and then he's like, hey, Angela, want to go to the movies? And then it like makes the woman look like a horrible banshee that's like, I need my space, and then she like rips off his skin and stuff or something like that.
Okay, no, I did not see that one.
Yeah, they're I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's also like, you know, it'd be like introducing this friend that you know to somebody, and then the first thing they say is like, I shat my pants in 5th grade, you know? Like, yeah, but you also have all these other things you should tell us. Like, don't start with that one, I guess is my point. But,
also, why are you telling my come on lines to everyone?
I said 5th grade. You told me it was in your 6th grade. I got
it was all through elementary?
Oh, I see.
Pick a grade.
Sorry.
I got you covered.
But, we were talking earlier about, Guy Madden and how, like, they're kind of similar in my mind, how they're both, like, great artists. I'm so glad they're alive. But I was realizing today there's a real disconnect between the two in that Don Hertzfeldt, as an American artist, is like, he rejects any commercialization of his work, doesn't want to do commercials, and has since been like a kind of a struggling artist, you know, his whole life. Whereas like Guy Madden, their country is like, here, we recognize you as a talent from our country. Here's tax dollars. Go make things for us, you know. Whereas like Don Hertzfeldt has won so many awards for what he's done, and they're like, everyone turns his back on him because it's like, well, you're not going to use this to make money. Like, that's just such an American attitude towards art. You know what I mean?
To be fair, I don't think, like, Guy Madden's, like, putting his feet up, you know.
Well, no, he's not rolling
it. Like, they're going out of style. Just
sipping ouzo. No, but I mean, like, there's just no... I don't see our government jumping up and being like, this is an important American artist.
Do you think Don Hertzfeldt would take the money?
I don't know. That's a good question, actually. I didn't think
like,
about
I can see him, like, sort of rejecting that.
Yeah, because maybe then there's expectations on his art that he's not willing to cater to.
Yeah.
That's possible. But I don't know. It's just frustrating to me that this person who's won so many awards from so many critics and film festivals is still relatively unknown. I feel like we should be blasting his name from the mountaintop, you know?
Needs to make more My Anus is Bleeding.
Yeah.
No new crap, just the hits, man. Don't bore us, straight to the chorus.
Just like come up with a line of anus bleeding puffballs.
Yeah. Action figures that, like, when you squeeze, red liquid drops out.
Yeah, Don Hertzfeldt is un-American. is my point. I mean, we really haven't done this movie justice, but it's really all in the experience. Like, it's hard to talk about.
I mean, what are we going to do? Talk about the curvaceousness of the lines? Elvis Costello once said that writing about music is like dancing about architecture.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel like this falls into that category where to sit and talk about it won't really capture the essence of it.
Yeah, it's tough. I didn't realize how tough it would be to talk about. But
I mean, it's fertile. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
It's not like we're want for stuff to talk about, but it's hard to really capture the essence of a Hertzfeldt film with words.
Yeah.
You have to see it.
Well said. I really hate leaf blowers. God.
What?
There's the scene in the second act when there's like the guy blowing the leaf.
Oh yeah,
stuff, and
yeah.
it just like goes on forever. And watching it, just the sound of a leaf blower, and
so I was listening to a podcast the other day.
Okay.
Yeah, I was listening to like how stupid lawns are. Like how bad they are for the environment, and how much money they suck up, and like how much water they take to maintain. And one of the things that this report was talking about is how annoying leaf blowers are. And it like broke it down. Like they had like an audio engineer scientist on talking about, it's like, well, like most lawn care devices, it has like a really dirty loud engine, and it leaf blowers in particular have this annoying thing where there's the low rumbling of the engine itself, but the air blowing creates this really high-pitched sound on top of it. So you have an annoying low sound and an annoying high sound on top of one another, and it creates a sort of unique pitch that cannot be like muted. Like closing your door, closing the windows does not like block the sound.
Yeah, there's also like the frequency variation because it's always like so it's like you can't even just tune it out and have it be background noise like droning, because it's not droning, it's changing pitch.
Yeah, it's not white noise anymore.
And they're loud and they're wasteful. It's like, get a fucking rake, you know? God.
Wow.
Drive me crazy. Well, Matt, if you can believe it, this is episode 29 that we've finished here.
Feels like it was just yesterday that we were doing our last double feature.
Yeah, well, guess what? It's time for our next feature.
What do we have on the docket, Ryan?
Well, we like to do something new every time we do a double feature here on X-Rated, in case you didn't know. So this time, we're focusing on a specific actor that has some
that special Hertzfeldian quality that's ineffable.
Can't put my finger on it, but
it's not quality. You know that.
We know it's not quality, but we love her, and we've decided to do for this double feature a Gershonathon.
Bum, bum, bum.
And of course, I'm talking about Gina Gershon.
As opposed to who? Antonio Gershon?
Maleficent Gershon. The costume designer from the 1940s. Easily confused.
Wow, you had that on the surface, like you knew I was going to ask.
But we're going to do Bound.
Yeah.
And also a new thing for us, a movie that neither of us have seen.
Going in blind.
House of Versace. Which... no idea.
Like a Gina Gershon movie. Lifetime original.
Yeah, this could go real south or real north. We don't know.
But there's no in between.
No, we're going in blind, and it's gonna be something.
It'll be a couple of movies.
One way or the other.
We know that much.
We've got 2 movies to watch for next week.
Let's plug our junk.
I'm going to start things differently this time. We would love it if you subscribed, rated, reviewed on the iTunes. We're also on...
Well, I was going to say, our podcast, once again, is X-rated movies if you're trying to find us on iTunes.
Oh, that's where it is.
That's been the problem the whole time. No one knows the name of this.
They open up iTunes and they're just a blank. They're like,
This is what happens when you throw off the routine.
Damn it. Okay, take 2. We also have a Twitter account at X-Rated Movies.
Find us on Facebook, Rated X Movies.
Mm-hmm. And rate, review, subscribe in iTunes. There, got it. We also have a Patreon if you want to pay for this fine quality content.
You can also email us, x.rated.movies@gmail.com.
We're just all over the web.
Yeah, any place you look.
Picture us as sheets covering the internet. And that's accurate.
Mine's the stained one.
I'm like a Garfield sheet from 80s, maybe.
Is that still around?
Garfield?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is Jim Davis still alive?
Tune in next week to find out.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week with our double feature, Bound and House of Versace.
AKA Gershon-a-thon.
Yeah.